Hey guys, today I want to show you a couple of tricks on acoustic guitar. Everything from how to fix your input jack, to how to restring, to how to maintain your acoustic guitar, and for fun, how to convert either your acoustic or electric guitar into a slide guitar for about $4 to $6, which is pretty impressive. The pricing, I should say. It's a great product, so we got to talk about it. So let's get into it and let's have fun. An easy modification that you may want to make to an acoustic or electric guitar is, let's say you want to try to play slide guitar. And the problem you're going to have is that if your action is too low, like this, see that? If your action is too low, you cannot play slide guitar. So you have a couple choices. You can get a dobro style guitar, or you can maybe raise a new bridge, put a little taller bridge here, or even a higher nut. Or you can relieve the truss rod so the bow comes forward, but all those are unnecessary and not really the best thing for the guitar. Let me show you a fast, easy modification. This is a nut made by Grover that you can get for about $4 to $6, depending where you look on the internet. Super easy, and you can already probably tell what we're going to do with this. Let's check it out. All you want to do is just loosen your strings. Super easy. Okay, so super simple. We're going to go ahead and just, now that we've loosened the strings, we're just going to get them out of the way of the nut. Okay, right? Let's go ahead and add the Grover nut. It goes just like that. Look at that. And we're going to go ahead and put the strings back. You can kind of see where this is going, right? It should be pretty easy. Okay, so the only difference now is now that we have the nut on there, right, and it's just held down by the strings, we're just going to tune it, but now we're not going to tune it to E, we're going to tune it to open G. Okay, so we're all tuned up, we're in open G now, and now let's take a look at the action. That is vastly different. So let's see what we got going on here. So all you have to do is now just start working on some slide guitar. Okay, so this one's an easy one. This is every acoustic player's nightmare. Happens all the time. This input jack gets loose, and what do? Well, I'm not talking about just the threaded end. I'm talking about the actual whole jack is loose. So you got to get in there. So what do? Well, you're going to need a couple things. First of all, you're going to need a capo. You're going to use, I use a really thick piece of copper wire. See that, right? Or any kind of hard wire. But you see how hard it is? And then I like to have it shrink wrapped. So I just found the one that's shrink wrapped. And electrical tape. Here's what we're going to do. Let's take the electrical tape and wrap it. Now, you can do it all kinds of ways. This is the way I've done it, just fast and easy. See how once you got it started, it'll just keep going. And once you make this, you'll keep this forever, okay? So what you're going to do is keep going until you get the electrical tape to be 1/4 inch. You may already know where I'm going with this. So just keep going, we'll keep going. Another thing to mention is, like I said, at least give yourself 12 to 16 inches of wire. Now you can see what I'm going to do now. Now I want to make sure it fits into the input jack really snug. See that? But don't worry about that yet. This is all we're going to do. Okay, so now all you got to do, don't worry about anything. Just loosen, let it fall inside the guitar even. It doesn't even matter, I promise. Because that's not what we're going to worry about now. Okay? So, there you go. So we're going to take that capo. You can do pretty much wherever you feel comfortable. I like the, let's say, the 9th fret. Okay, make sure your capo is good and clamped. Sometimes it's better to come from the treble side than the bass side, but either way you're fine. You clamp it down right there, and now you're okay to go ahead and loosen the tuning keys. Very exciting stuff. Okay, so with the tuning keys loose, now what you're going to do is slowly, see your capo's there? You're just going to pull these just like this. You see where we're going like this? Nice and soft, easy, okay? Use just a bridge puller. You can use whatever you use normally. Take these out. Okay, so for safety purposes, I just take the strings, you know, safety of the top, and I put them right inside there. See how that is? Now I just reach in with my hand, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that input jack right there. And what I would do is go ahead and tighten it. That's the part that's probably loose, this side, right? So we'll go ahead and tighten that. If you want, you can put some electrical tape behind it, plumber's tape behind it, shrink wrap, whatever it is that makes it better. Okay, super easy. Now we're going to feed this through the hole. Reach in and put it into our input jack. So now that it's in there, it's super easy. We're just going to pull this through, right? And now the best thing about this is once you pulled it through, you can feed the washers, see that, over and go over all this. Okay, and then once that's on, you can just slide this over on top, push this down on top, and done. It's on there sturdy. Now let's talk about how we're going to put this back. Super easy. You're going to take them one at a time because they're still being kept in the order they were. One at a time, insert them back into the string holes to make sure that they're not crisscrossing. Insert the pegs back in. Straightforward, right? And you can see we're all still lined up perfectly. Once you got string tension back on all the strings, you can go ahead and remove the capo and everything will be the way it was. And you can just tune up now, and what took, you know, a couple minutes to do. And you have that handy, so every time that jacket's loose, you know how to fix that. Or anytime you need to get into your acoustic for any reason, there you go. Okay, so now let's look at restringing an acoustic guitar. And when you restring an acoustic guitar, there's a couple things you want to be looking for. First of all, if you're using a humidifier in the guitar, with the guitar, inside the sound hole or in the case, you gotta understand that moisture is good for the wood, it's bad for metal. So what happens is your frets get like oxidized, they get grungy and they dirty really quick. And so do your strings. And so that's why you want to be aware of that and change strings. That's why sometimes coated strings are really good if you have to humidify your guitar, because the humidity is not affecting the strings because they are coated. So be aware of that. Now, one of the things I want to show you real fast is when you take off your, you can see dirt in there. See that dirt? Dirt is friction, and friction is bad because obviously you have instability in tuning when the string cannot glide across the nut correctly. So let's take the strings off, and I'm going to show you what I want you to do to the nut, the frets, and the fretboard. Okay, so first let's clean the nut on this guitar. So the dirt in there, and you might look in yours and it might be worse. This is actually not that bad, but here's what I use. I just use some hand sanitizer and a micro swab. Now you might not have a micro swab, right? Let's go ahead and put that in there. And all you do is just like scrubbing your hands, scrub the dirt out. You might have another type of product that you want to use. That's fine. I just like this because this is what I have handy and it works. But essentially anything just to help kind of take the dirt out. But you can see already, see how clean and shiny these grooves are, which is important. And now what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and let's look at the frets. Okay, so next let's take a look at the frets. Now the frets, like I said, will get grimy because of the moisture content or just time. So what do? Well, you have two choices. You can buy a cool fret guard from like Stu Mac or a place like that. I love it. It's fast and easy. You can see how fast I can do this. Or you can use painter's tape. And painter's tape is very easy and cheap, of course, comparatively speaking. But the fret guards are kind of forever. So again, you're going to put it here and then use 0.00 steel wool, just something light, and go ahead and just sand that in there. Now normally I would hold the fret guard. Now just looking at that, you can tell. See how shiny that is and smooth to the touch it is versus this? I mean, you can even hear how that sounds versus this sounds, right? So much smoother, nicer. So I just go ahead and just lightly, and again, it's just a light amount, right? You're not going to do a lot. You're not trying to take any of the metal off, and you know, right? Just lightly clean this off, okay? Okay, so now you're polishing up your frets. Let's go ahead and talk about your fretboard. It's a good idea to oil the fretboard, especially if you live in a dry climate. I don't know how often you want to do it. I really don't do it more than once or twice a year. You know, everybody's got a different technique and a feeling about this. You know, if you've got a different vibe or if you don't like the way this is doing, you know, this style of doing it, put it in the comments. That's fine, right? We're all here to learn something. And then I just let it soak in as much as the fretboard will. And then once it soaks in what I think it's gonna, I take a nice clean cloth and I just wipe off the excess, right? Just kind of, that we've cleaned the nut and we oiled the fretboard and polished the frets, I use Lubricate. Lubricate is a product made by D'Addario. Although it's like Big Ben's nut sauce, there's a ton of these, right? A little bit goes a long way. You can see just a little teeny bead. And on the small ones, the reason I like the syringe is because I use the force of the syringe to see how I come from the side to force it in. I'm just going to show you right here. See how it kind of force it down the canal. Whoops, let's do it that way. There you go. And then again, I have a micro swab, and I just go ahead and that is going to help again remove friction, which will make tuning much easier. Keep in mind that your guitar is vibrating a lot, probably more so than an electric guitar in the fact of the shaking because the body is being amplifying it. I use one of these ESP wrenches you can get from, you know, StewMac or Amazon, and I use it, see, just to tighten these up. You'll notice these are loose all the time, and there's nothing wrong with tightening them every time you restring your guitar, although, you know, there's socket wrenches, whatever makes you comfortable. I just like this tool because it's easy. In fact, I'm doing it one-handed while holding a camera, so how do you hate that? Now, the next thing you want to think about is this. When you're restringing your acoustic guitar, one of the things you definitely want to pay attention to is what kind of string was on it when you replace it. Now, you're thinking 12 gauge, like, you know, if there was 12s, put 12s, but that's not what I'm talking about. Gauge is important, so if you have 11s, 12s, 13s, 10s on your acoustic, you want to match those up. But more importantly, you want to make sure that the phosphor bronze and the 80-20s are accurate. So let me give you an example. There's a reason why I left the strings on this guitar on. These are 80-20. Now I know that because they're yellow like gold. Okay, they produce a very bright sound, and some people like it, but it's very brassy, if that's even a thing, right? And where 80-20 is the brassy sound, phosphor bronze is more like a new shiny penny. It'll be copper. So I went ahead and installed one of each. This is a phosphor bronze E string, and this is a 80-20 E string. I went ahead and tuned them both to E, just so you can notice. And now, of course, this is not scientific by any means. This is just for fun. And I want to show you just how they are subtle. I'm going to go ahead and use my finger to mute one string, hit the other. You'll notice that the phosphor bronze is a little warmer sounding. So here's your phosphor bronze. Okay, your 80-20. You see, it's just a little bit more like a bell-like ring. I prefer phosphor bronze just because it's got a little bit of softer sound. And I notice it chimes a little bit more. And one of the things that isn't being relevant in this test is that it's just not only the type of metal these strings are made of, these strings kind of make the high strings sound differently because obviously the more brash and bright they are, the more they equalize the sound of the high strings. The deeper these sound, the more the high strings kind of ring out louder and be noticed more. So again, you want to be aware of that. I'm not telling you which one's better. I'm just telling you to be aware that that's the two kinds of strings. Now, you can look at any manufacturer. It doesn't matter. You know, like this is a Fender pack, and of course, this Fender pack says proudly phosphor bronze. This is a D'Addario coated pack. It's 80-20 bronze. They make this also in phosphor bronze. Obviously, the Martins were the 80-20s, and of course, this is phosphor bronze. And then here's a set of D'Addario acoustics, or sorry, Dunlop acoustics, and they are 80-20s. So again, you need to be paying attention to what color your string is and what kind of metal your string is using. Because it's not so much just for preference, but also, like I said, a lot of times you switch strings in your guitars and you swear your guitars change sound. It's because you just changed type of string. Okay, so when you're restringing the guitar, you want to put the string into the pinhole, push the pin in firmly, and then make sure it's seated really well. And then what I do is I come across and I pull the string taut over the nut, and then I kind of over on the outside of the tuning key. And then what I do, now on a thick string, everybody's got a different method. No method is wrong. It's what works for you. Some people tie them. I use on the big strings, the first two strings, I use a 2-finger method, and then after that, 3. What does that mean? Well, I take 2 fingers, pass the string, like so, okay? and then I pinch that, and that tells me how much slack. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and now wrap it using 2 fingers past the tuning key and see what that gives us. Okay, and as you can see, 2 fingers gave us 2, almost 3 really good wraps. And again, just a little bit of distance there. You don't want it to munch up. You don't want it to overlap. It's okay to have a little gap. That's more than enough. And again, some people like to tie them, do the over-under loop. It's fine, whatever you're happy with. Again, I just want to give you an idea for gauge of how many wraps and how the distance is. So that was a fun video, right? I hope you learned something. These are things I have to deal with every day in my job, and I thought it was a great way to kind of teach some of you guys some cool stuff and have some fun while doing it. And so thank you for spending some time with me today. As always, if you haven't subscribed and you'd like to, go ahead and hit the subscription button down below. It lets me know that you're interested in more videos and motivates me to make them. If you like the videos, hit like, and if you dislike the videos, hit dislike. I could take it. And as always, I want to thank you for your time and know your gear. Oh, you're back already. Oh, yeah, hey. Well, since you're back, let's talk about something else that's cool. A lot of you guys asked about these cool t-shirts, and so we did some campaigns. We're gonna do another one. Check the link below to get your own shirt. They ship internationally, which is really cool. The shipping is very, very reasonable, and it's a great way to support the channel. We take the proceeds of the shirts and I put it into the channel. In other words, in improving the quality of what you see or getting other gear for review. So it's just a nice way to help the channel out and have a cool shirt. So please support the channel and check out the Know Your Gear t-shirts.